No, no. It's stream is coming up. Coming up. Online coming up. No, it's coming up. No, online.
That we should call Paramahamsa Please grant the success my divine grace. Shirabhai Shalabhai Bhakti Vinod Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Kalligiti Foundation Divine Grace Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Lahira Sakur Ki Samavaya Tapapin Ki Haryana Sankirtan Ki Kampalas Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jai Gaur all glories to be assembled. All glories to be assembled. All glories to be assembled. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Gauranga. Om Agyanatimirandhirasya Janandana Shalakaya Dakshinamritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Himdavati Swapadam Vikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Guru Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagratam Saharanam Raghunatam Vikam Swam Sahitam Sadvaitam Sadvitam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahadana Lalita Sri Visakanditam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Tanya Radha Vrindavan Sri Taptakanchana Godhangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhami Sri Pranami Vanchakalpatruyasya Vipasindhu Kaivasya Patitam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very names of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara Narayan Rishi, the Supreme Ocean being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Sri Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naisiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed and practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Namastoka Charitam Shakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Maha. Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Sri Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya This second short mantra you have to listen carefully. It's very short. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukham karoti vācārāṁ Gangayate Krimme Yatkripa Vatamaham Vande Sri Guru Vinatham Yatkripa Vatamaham Vande Sri Guru Vinatham Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to the Bhagavatam class. And we are reading from the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter 1 entitled The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone. And today just happens to be the last verse of this chapter. And it is okay. Everyone may kindly follow. Sri Yudhishthira Uvacha Vidvesho Daite Putre Dhamma Asina Mahatmani Ruhi Me Bhagavan Yena Paladasya Shutat Mata Sri Yudhishthira Uvacha Vidvesho Daite Putre Dhamma Asin Mahatmani Ruhi Me Bhagavan Yena Paladasya Shutat Mata Sri Yudhishthira Uvacha Vidvesho Daite Putre Dhamma Asin Mahatmani Ruhi Me Bhagavan Yena Paladasya Shutat Mata
Yudhishthira Vacha Vidvesho Daite Putre Asin Mahatmani Rime Bhagavanyena Paladasya Shutat Mata Shri Yudhishthira Vacha Vidvesho Daite Putre Asin Mahatmani Rime Bhagavanyena Paladasya Shutat Mata Shri Yudhishthira Vacha
Yudhishthira Vacha
Vidvesho Daite Putre Asin Mahatmani Rime Bhagavanyena Paladasya Shutat Mata
Ladies, One more. Sri Yudhishthira Uvacha. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, Vidveshaha, hatred, Daite, for his own beloved, Putre, son, Katham, how, Asit, there was, Mahatmani, the great soul, Prahlad, Bruhi, please tell, may, unto me, Bhagavan, O exalted sage, Yena, by which Prahladasya, of Prahlad Maharaj, Achyuta, to Achyuta, at Mata, great attachment. Translation and report by Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, O my Lord, Narada Muni, why was there such enmity between Hiranyakashipu and his beloved son, Prahlad Maharaj? How did Prahlad Maharaj become such a great devotee of Lord Krishna? Kindly explain this to me. Kindly repeat after me. And Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, O my Lord, Narada Muni, why was there such enmity between Hiranyakashipu and his beloved son, Prahlad Maharaj? How did Prahlad Maharaj become such a great devotee of Lord Krishna? Kindly explain this to me. Report. All the devotees of Lord Krishna are called Achyutatmana because they follow in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj. Achyuta refers to the infallible Lord Vishnu, whose heart is always infallible. Because the devotees are attached to the infallible, they are called Achyutatma. Achyutatma. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta Purports of the 7th canto, 1st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone. I'll read the translation again. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, O my Lord, Narada Muni, why was there such enmity between Hiranyakashipu and his beloved son, Prahlad Maharaj? How did Prahlad Maharaj become such a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Kindly explain this to him. So this seventh canto is dealing with great personalities. Yudhishthira Maharaj, who is the eldest of the Pandavas, who are very, very close associates of Krishna, and he is inquiring from Narada Muni, another great personality. Bhagavatam is full of such great personalities, and this second canto, later on actually, it will be the last portion, actually, chapter 11 to 15 of this seventh canto, are the continuing discussions between these two great personalities, Yudhishthira Maharaj and Narada Muni. Of course, they are discussing about another great personality, Prahlad Maharaj. So the message being conveyed here is that Lord Krishna is known, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is known as Achyuta. Actually, in India, when we go to different temples, and if the local priest is performing some particular yajna on our behalf, he will ask us, what is your gotra? And most of us who are from the Western countries, we don't have a gotra. Gotra means family lineage. And so, yeah, our reply is that we belong to the Achyuta Gotra. And we do, of course, as devotees of Lord Krishna. So this nice point is being explained here, that in the same way that Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he descends in the material world, he remains fully transcendental. He is always eternally in his spiritual position, as described in the Shastra, of Satchitananda Vigraha. He has an eternal form, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And we who are his parts and parcels, Amaya Namtro, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, our original nature is also Satchitananda. Our problem in the material world is that differently than Krishna, when we come in the material world, we accept a material identity, material body, which is influenced by the modes of material nature. No one is spared from this. Everyone is heavily conditioned by these modes of material nature. However, Lord Krishna advises or gives instructions in the Bhagavad Gita. I was looking for the Bhagavad Gita. Do you have it here? I see the Nectar Devotion. I see other books. Oh, that's small one. Huh? Okay. So we can best appreciate these descriptions and instructions actually given from the Bhagavatam by having a sound understanding of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. The same concept or instruction which is being conveyed in this verse, whereby living entities who follow in the footsteps of Krishna who engage in devotional service, they also become infallible. They also are able to transcend these modes of material nature. There's a chapter actually dedicated in the Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, three modes of material nature, which very nicely explains this particular point. Actually, it's in the very beginning of the 14th chapter, and it goes as follows. 14:1. Param bhuya prakshami jnanam jnanamupram yajgyadva manaya sarve param siddhim ito gataha. Krishna begins this chapter by saying the following. He's speaking to Arjuna. Again, I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all sages have attained the supreme perfection. And then he explained in the next verse, Idam jnanam upasritya mama sadharva magataha. Very important statement. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. In other words, although we are here in the material world, but by cultivation of this knowledge, by cultivating transcendental knowledge, which is explaining about the nature of the Supreme Lord, which is fully transcendental, and the essence of which is bhakti or devotional service, we can also attain that same nature of Krishna. Krishna, when he descends, as also explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam, my birth and my karma or activities are fully divyam or transcendental. So if we also take up such activities, we also are able to transcend these modes of material nature. Bhagavad Gita nicely describes the importance of taking up what is called prescribed duties. Very often, actually, people they ask, well, I'm not living in the temple. I have a job. I have to work. I have to interact with so many people. So, how to actually spiritualize my life so that I'm not entangled. So, there's a whole very nice, the whole Vedic culture is explaining how even so-called material activities, there's a whole science that we call the science of dharma, Bhagavat dharma. Srimad Bhagavatam is especially focused on Bhagavat dharma. Dharma means, has different meanings, but in essence it means what is more natural and original for all of us. We have our original nature on the spiritual transcendental platform, which is what Krishna, when he descends in the material world, he displays, he enacts. He's always situated in his what we call Nitya Lila. Nitya Lila. Nitya means eternal Lila pastimes. So we have, although we are here in the material world, connected with the world of material nature, we have an opportunity, if we are fortunate to come in contact with this knowledge, we have an opportunity to actually become part of, or to enter in the Leelas or pastimes of Lord Krishna. And of course, it's a gradual process, and it entails understanding two levels of dharma, which is kind of a theme that's very important for all of us to understand. I guess it's a theme that maybe in the last quite a number of years I've been trying to focus on, especially generally as devotees, we are more focused or centered on what we call devotional service, which is of course the essence of what we should be doing. That is our eternal dharma, that is called Sanatana Dharma. Another aspect which is very important is that Krishna instructs, not only does he instruct, this will be brought up at the end of this chapter, actually, the last 5 chapters of this 7th canto. In this section, Mr. Maharaj wants to hear about his great personality, Prahlad Maharaj, and he's asking these questions which will be answered in the chapter. How is it that Prahlad Maharaj, who is the son of the greatest of all demons, Hiranyakashipu, how is it that he was a devotee? Because normally, what is it? Father like son? Normally, the son takes on the same qualities of the father, but it's not always the case. And of course, that will be revealed in the pages to come. Largely due to association, because Prahlad Maharaj, as we know, within the womb of his mother before being born, he was fortunate to get a good association of sadhus, saintly persons. He was his mother, who was being threatened actually by the demigods. The demigods wanted to actually detain her until the son was born, and they wanted to kill the son because they thought we have enough of what he done in Kashipu, we don't need another one. But Narada Muni actually arranged that the mother was protected, and during his stay in the ashram, as we know, every day he would be hearing I guess, different verses from the Bhagavatam, as we also have an opportunity. And therefore, it means that by such association, especially our acharyas described, the hearing process is the most important. Sravanam, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam means to remember Vishnu or Krishna. And the two most powerful ways by which we can do that is by Sravanam, which means hearing, and Kirtanam, chanting or speaking about. The Bhagavatam is full of Sravanam, Kirtanam. The whole rendering of the Srimad Bhagavatam, as we know, what is being conveyed, then gradually we will actually become purified. And as we begin to engage in our prescribed duties, actually we have 2 levels of prescribed duties: spiritual prescribed duties and material prescribed duties. And both are subject matter that are meant to be more and more fully understood and of course put into practice. And the more we do that, then the more we become also, the more we take on this quality of being unaffected by the dualities of the material world. We are especially heavily influenced by two things. I mean, more than two things, especially in Kali Yuga. But they're summarized basically. I mentioned one, by the three modes of material nature. No one is spared. And secondly, by what is called the threefold miseries of life, isn't it? No one, again, is spared by that. The whole material world is such that we are being disturbed, practically speaking, at every moment of our life. That is called the different influences by nature, caused by the demigods, by our own body as well. Adibautik is called Adibautik, Adivaidik. One can actually learn to gradually transcend these influences on the body and the mind as well. If we learn nicely about these two dimensions of dharma, it's a major topic actually. Most of us who are practicing for some time Krishna consciousness, we tend to be more at ease and more knowledgeable about what we call our spiritual dharma. Spiritual swadharma is the main theme actually for all of us as devotees, which the essence of which, of course, is practicing spiritual life. But we are less, and I think it's important for us to understand, we are generally less familiar with, less knowledgeable about what is meant to be our material swadharma. Both topics are very deep and profound in nature. And of course, throughout the Bhagavatam, just like I mentioned a few minutes ago, the last portion of this particular canto, Yudhisthira Maharaj, after hearing sufficiently, after Narada Muni answers all of his questions regarding Prahlad Maharaj, this great devotee, he will then, Yudhisthira Maharaj, he will then ask Narada Muni, can you now speak to me about what is dharma, and specifically what is varnashrama dharma? So there's a whole discussion and a very detailed explanation that is coming on, that is part of this seventh canto. And one of the very important statements that Narada Muni will be sharing with Yudhisthira Maharaj is that those who are devotees, those who are fortunate to begin this, we could say, journey, transcendental journey of cultivating knowledge which is beyond what we can just see with our limited vision, which is beyond what we can understand with our limited material mind and intelligence, is the subject matter that Narada Muni will be picking up. And the point being that the more we hear these subject matters, and there's one particular statement that of course comes up later on by Narada Muni to Yudhisthira Maharaj, that those who are devotees, their primary, we could say, focus in life, the primary objective should be to deepen their understanding, to deepen our understanding. And that's nicely summarized in the following verse, where Narada speaks about dharma. Dharma mulam hi bhagavan sarva vidamayo bhavihi smritam cha tadidam rajam yena chatma prasidati. The word smriti actually means to remember. As devotees, we are meant to remember and not forget what is our primary goal and duty in life, regardless of where we may be living. Sometimes it's, if one is living in a temple, that's wonderful. One has, in many ways, more opportunities because one can see the Lord, one can engage in so many devotional activities. But that remembering process can also be accomplished even if one is not living in a temple. And it is an art that anyone can actually learn if one is simply following the recommended process, especially again, as we mentioned, in the matter of hearing and chanting. There's going to be a few engagements, as mentioned earlier, by Prabhupada. And I will be focusing especially on developing this theme of dharma on these two levels of, again, spiritual dharma, because that is connected with our eternal nature, but also material dharma, because we happen to be carrying, all of us, a material nature, whether we like it or not. And we've been carrying this material nature, and each one of our natures are different, and there's a whole very elaborate explanation on this, how to make, as Prabhupada would say, the best use of the bad bargain. All of us, we have a bad bargain. We have this material body. When we understand more, the more we understand about spiritual life, we can understand how the body is presenting all kinds of challenges, but that we can overcome by knowing these two things, by knowing what what is the spiritual nature of ourselves and the spiritual world, and the activities that are ongoing there. And simultaneously, because as long as we are in the material world, especially as long as we are connected with these modes of material nature, we really need to know about the material nature. As a matter of fact, not Yudhisthira, Parikshit Maharaj, in the early section of the Bhagavatam, although he is destined to leave his body, he's been cursed to die in 7 days, and one would think that he should only be asking spiritual questions, but he's also asking about things related to the material universe, cosmology, planets, and whatnot. And Prabhupada explains how such great devotees as Parikshit Maharaj, they learn to appreciate the Lord through his material nature as well. So this is the tail end of this. This is the actual end of this chapter, and the next chapter is going to continue the same subject matter of Hiranyakashipu, and some of these questions being asked here by Yudhishthira Maharaj will be addressed by if there's any 2 minutes for comments or questions. Yes.
Thank you, Krishna. Apologies for not enough hearing that. Apologies for not enough hearing that. You mentioned that we have to cultivate transcendental knowledge. Is that a question of study or practical activity, or is it a balance of both?
Whether it's a question of study or
Practical activity.
it's a combination of both, actually. If we properly cultivate transcendental knowledge, which means especially hearing, reading, studying, we all know, especially those who were around in the early days, Prabhupada was always very much praising his devotees for distributing his books. But then one day he asked them, "Do you read my books?" So distributing books, reading them, and then somebody mentioned, well, studying books is also important. And then connecting with your question, after reading, hearing, distributing, studying, then we have to apply. And that, to the extent that we're able to apply what we've heard, what we studied, then to that extent it means we are understanding what's in the books. So it's very important. As a matter of fact, there's in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, it is, Shukadeva Goswami explains in a series of very important verses that when one comes to that particular level, it is that very famous verse, Evam prasamanaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vidyanam mukta sanghasta jayate. Means when one comes to the mode of goodness, because we at least need to come to the mode of goodness. The whole Vedic culture is helping us actually to come to that mode of goodness. Then we can mode of goodness means our mind is peaceful. We're not troubled by the lower modes of material nature. We're kind of like fixed. It's called vista, level of vista. Then we can engage nicely in bhakti, devotional activities. And then when we engage in activities of bhakti, Krishna reciprocates as Paramatma and gives us what is called transcendental knowledge, or Vigyan. There's Gyan and Vigyan. And it is the more we are capable of receiving the Vigyan, then it translates into practical activities in our life, which includes both, I would say, the spiritual dimension of dharma as well as the material dimension of dharma. That's a whole major theme in itself. I'm hoping to discuss a bit more later on today and tomorrow. Yeah. So we have to come to the point of, we say Pranamati, Prabhupada kind of like was drilling that to us and continues actually, because it needs to be repeated. But our understanding of Pranamati will be shown by how we live and how we react in different situations, etc. So the practical aspect or the practical application of that knowledge is absolutely important, essential. And we have, as individually and collectively as a society, a major responsibility, because by practical application, others can see and can be inspired, isn't it? Just like Prabhupada told us, first is food. First is food, in the sense that our primary responsibility on the material level, for example, is to produce. The Vedic culture being agrarian culture, people traditionally would be producing their own food. Because we've swayed away, we've gone distracted from that, disconnected. Therefore, now we're stuck with food which is not good for us, as we know. And because of so many deviations actually from these instructions that are there both in the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, we have created a situation which is can we say pure hell? Something like that. Pure hell. Yeah. So therefore, we as devotees, we have to turn the table around.
One devotee in Wales used to read a Sanskrit scholar, and he broke down the word understand. In Sanskrit, it's star is to stand in its causative form as stapayati. He causes ta stand, assumes meanings that are emphatically architectural, to place, locate, erect, build, establish. The sense of stapati as master of building operations, master goal of duration is causative star. The term pati, Lord Master, again from the causative star, erecting down star pana, causing star, causing ta, stand, erecting, establishing. Similarly, the noun star paka is also derived from the causative star and specifies the agent of action. He's basically saying that when we're talking about understanding, Krishna often says, one understands. He's meaning where you're situated, when you're taking shelter. Are you understanding?
Yes.
It's an interesting way.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to more clearly, more deeply understand so many things that are given about it. Any other? Yes.
Thank you so much for such a nice session, Maharaj. I have two questions. One is, in terms of practical terms, what is one's material dharma?
In practical terms, what does?
What is material? What is one's?
What does material dharma? Okay. Should I give another Bhagavatam?
Like, is it just to serve our family, do our job?
Actually, the essence of materials for dharma is also service. But it is service as it is prescribed and ordained in the Shastra. Small example. Actually, it's a big one. Prabhupada, again, in the, when Narada Muni will begin to explain to Yudhisthira Maharaj on his request more about dharma, at one point he mentions regarding what is meant to be the primary duty and responsibility of householders. Now, if I was to ask all of you, what is your understanding of what is meant to be the primary, not actually responsibility, but occupation? We speak about prescribed duties. What is meant, according to Vedic culture, Vedic understanding, what is meant to be the primary occupation of the majority, not all, but of the majority of householders? How many householders here? Few, yeah. So interesting to know from the householders. What is in the Vedic culture the general occupation of the majority of householders? Because he's asking regarding material dharma. So what is meant to be the material activity besides chanting Hare Krishna and doing bhakti?
To earn a living. To earn a living. To raise funds. Make money.
There is a science, there is one science called, it's one of the Vidyas, Chatur Vidya. Vedic culture is based on 4 basic Vidyas. You're referring to one of them, and it's you're quite close, but specifically it means you're referring to the 4th of these Vidyas, which is called the science of economics. What is the Vedic science of economics? That will answer the question, actually. The Vedic science of economics is Krishi Goraksha Bhavijam Vaishya Karma Swabhavatam. Which means, if we accept this, I mean, it is, if we agree, then it means that actually the occupation for the majority of householders is meant to be agriculture and cow protection. They go hand in hand. That's how things were in Vrindavan. That's how things were before the Industrial Revolution and the French Revolution in Europe. And therefore that's meant to be the more simple and natural activity. So these things can be understood when we cultivate this knowledge, what is meant to be. So material sadhana means what is prescribed by Shastra, by the acharyas, which will more easily facilitate our spiritual growth, our spiritual development. Yeah. Now we're living in what is called, society of Ugra Karma. No rules, no regulations, totally upside down and irrational, etc. And therefore, it's more difficult to practice spiritual life. And the problem is that majority of our devotees are caught up in that also. And should not be. Or Prabhupada at least instructed us that, hey, there's an option here. You have to consider, you have to know what that option is, and you have to prepare yourself, etc. like that. Anyways, that's a whole other topic. I think we have to end by saying, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.